Welcome back to the Pagan Perspective. I'm your Thursday host, Yeka, coming to you a little bit late on a lovely and frosty morning. And this week we have been talking about a pretty heavy topic, but one that is really important to address. So I'm very glad that it's something that we can talk about and have this discussion and conversation, because I think that's one of the things that needs to be happening. And that is in light of the reports and allegations coming out of sexual assault and abuse, specifically in Hollywood, but in other places as well, politicians, doctors, lots of it coming out in the media. How does that affect our community as pagans, and is that something that's going on in our community, etc.? Now, the person who sent in the question actually linked to a very interesting article that's got some great discussion on that, and I do suggest reading that if you haven't already. But what I wanted to add this week was to talk about one of the major reasons that I think that abuses happen. And it has to do with the type of social structure, the power structure. And in almost all of these cases that we've seen, the dominant power structure has been a power over structure instead of a power with or some other uh, way of addressing and dealing with power. And if that's a term that you're not familiar with, I do really encourage looking up the power over versus power with. But these are situations, let's talk about, for instance, the Hollywood ones, where people's careers and passions and livelihoods are on the line. So when they are a victim, it is very difficult to be able to combat that. And that the power structure itself is set up to have somebody who is dominant over others, and that is very easy to slip into abuse to be able to maintain that dominance and in fact to build one's self up. So in any situation where there is that power structure, I think it's really really easy to slip into that, and takes a lot of effort to not. Now, when it comes to being sexual abuse, sexuality is one of the most powerful human experiences. It is incredibly primal, and something that just interacting in a sexual manner has, I think, speaks to us on a very, very deep level that goes past our conscious awareness. And that's one of the reasons I think it's really easy. I'm not defending people for doing this, by the way. I want to make that really clear. I think it is not something that is okay. I think that it's something that is very destructive. Any sort of abuse is not okay, and it's something that we need to really address. I'm just talking about why I think that it's something that is so systemic, so widespread, that it's this epidemic that we're dealing with. I don't think that it's a particularly new thing. Like I was saying, it's such a powerful human experience. Right now, our sort of macro culture is really dealing with some pretty major issues in terms of gender equality and just equality overall. And so it's a time period where this sort of thing can come to the light, and I think it's an opportunity for us to start to address it. Now, in terms of specifically in the pagan community, and the pagan community is a huge community. We talk about that a lot on this channel, that it's, the word pagan is really an umbrella term to describe a lot of different groups, a lot of different people. But I think that there's definitely that no group is immune to dealing with this sort of thing. And especially when there are situations where there is a mentor, student kind of relationship or some sort of established hierarchy, even if it's not spoken, like that, not a formal one, like, oh, there's high priestesses or priests and, that sort of thing. There's still that dynamic of there being a power over structure. And because it's something that we all grew up with and that's all around us, it's something that we easily slip into without even realizing that we are maintaining that structure. And it's often has to be a very conscious choice to create a different power system and structure. And it takes continual work and effort to do that. So I think that whenever we have situations where we've got that power structure, one, I think it's a good idea to really examine whether that's something that we want to be participating in anyways. But when that is there, to be very mindful of the possibility of abuses, not just sexual, but power abuses happening, and really look at that. And I think when it's happening, calling that out, if that's something that your values don't agree with. And something I think that's wonderful about modern paganism is that most of us really look inside to determine what those values are instead of looking to some authority figure about what those values should be. And I think that's a first step in a lot of ways to start to address some of these issues and problems that we are having in today's world. So I would love to hear from everyone else. I know there's been a lot of discussion already, but if you'd like to add more, be delighted to hear that from you in the comment section. And next week we've got kind of a sweet topic coming up, so I really look forward to sharing that with you, and thank you for being here. See you next week.